You're watching the Lazeezee Review Show, brought to you by Lazeezee.
You are watching the Sweetie Girl production. It's like that. Snap, snap.
Okay, today we're talking about family. Yes! You know, those group of people that fuck us up or make us better or make us worse. But how those relationships, our family relationships, how they impacted us. It's going to be a deep show, so stay tuned. The Lazeezee Review. So the show's about family. But it's not just about family. It's not just about, whatever. It's about how our relationships, our family relationships with everybody in our family, everybody close to us, how it impacted us, what an effect it had on our upbringing. So here we go. Let's get started. Family. Sisters, brothers, uncles, aunts, titis, tios. Those are uncles and aunts in Spanish, right? How was your family? Was it uncles and aunts and grandparents and cousins and friends? I mean, who was your best friend when you was growing up? Was it a sister or a cousin? For me, my brothers and sisters were my cousins. Especially, I had a brother. He was my older brother. But for me, growing up in the hood, circa 1980s, yes, because I'm an 80s kid. If you're an 80s kid, you know what I'm talking about. Like I said in prior videos, we grew up in junkyards, playing in junkyards. Like I said, those were our playgrounds. Those were our major playgrounds. And I had such an imagination as a kid. For me, I was walking through the woods, or we was always having an adventure. We was always playing. We was always doing something with our imagination. So that's how we grew up, and that's what impacted me. It was important because it grounded us in that way that because we could use our imagination, we use that now to think, and figure out, our problems or how to fix them. Like research things. When something's going wrong, you research it. You research about this or that or an ailment or whatever. And, and you learn that from being an 80s kid because you read a lot. We read a lot. That was something we did. And we played a lot. A lot of us, was into books, drawing, playing. So, and that was an impact right there in itself. That's an impact right there. Growing up circa 1980s. When I'm talking about family is how they impacted you. Well, growing up in the 80s, growing up, in the ghetto, Bronx, South Bronx. Yes, it was, like I said, flat. It was a mess. It was rubble, and it was rough, right? It was rough. There was a lot of junkies at the time, all up and down the streets. It was Zombie Nation for real. I mean, they were literally like, and they was like going like this, and it was jokes like, he's not gonna drop his beard. He's not gonna drop it, no matter how low he gets, no matter how much he does this. And I'm gonna keep it real, because many of us at that time had junkies in our family. We did. Because it was like close to the Vietnam War. A lot of veterans came back, junkies. They didn't take care of their soldiers. They did not receive the hero's welcome. Trust me, they didn't. My mom, she told me that it was true. They didn't. Because I asked, I said, did they ever receive the hero's welcome? She was like, hell no. They were called baby killers on a regular. They were treated like shit. And, they had to do certain things to get their rights and to get their respect when they got here. Some of them had to get violent. It was really a fucked up time for those soldiers. So that time was pushing off into our time. So you saw a lot of that. You saw a lot of veterans. You did, living in the junkyards. You did. You saw a lot of veterans. They were like hobos or bums, but they were junkies. And then you had a slew of junkies coming through because of the music. They played music. And a lot of people played music, and I'm not saying that all people that play music want to get into the junk, but in our day, it was a normal thing. A lot of salseros playing music like pa pa da pa pa. They were like that and shit. Yo, te quiero mucho. It was like that and shit. Like for instance, La Lupe. She was famous for salsa back in the days of the 70s. And they said, in documentaries, they said that she didn't do the junk, but she did, because family members that I know for a fact who seen her, met her, actually told me that, yeah, she'd be all fucked up. She'd be all, doing the junkie, droned out shit where they falling down like that, and they're like falling asleep and everything, and they're zoned out. Well, she would be doing that, and she'd be all fucked up on her show, on her stage, touching herself and like and doing all that shit. And yeah, that's the junkie. That's that junkie shit, whatever. So we grew up, seeing this all the time, and it did have an impact on us. It had an impact on our innocent eyes. But one thing I will tell you is how it impacted me and my immediate friends and family that I know, and what they all agree about is that it forced them not to want to fucking fuck with it. Yeah, it did. It worked like this, whoop, in a good way. It went over like a helium balloon. Paboom. And you know what? It worked. Because you see all these junkies around you and in your family too, here and there, And then, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be, in a stupor, or just wasting your life chasing after, they used to call it the white lady. Yeah, that's what they called it. They called it the white lady. They had a lot of little names for it and shit. So that's one way we were impacted by our family not to do drugs. We saw them do it, so we didn't do it. It was like that, and the alcoholism and shit like that. Then it wasn't like that for everybody's family, but it was like that for me. This is my experience. This is the experience I'm gonna give. And that's one positive story in a way. There was negatives. There was lots of negatives. Like, for instance, when people in the hood are very low educated, and they are, 90% of them at the time, they were, they gonna curse a lot in the house. They gonna curse like, gonna call you fucking bitch, and they're gonna be like, look, you little bitches took a bath? All right, take your fucking asses to sleep. Let's go. And it was a lot of that, and it was a lot of talking down to you, or be like, listen, what did I tell you? You want me to fucking knock you in your fucking head? You want me to bust your ass and shit like that? And it was like a lot of threatening violence. So when you raise like that, well, what that does is that it makes you violent. Like, you feel like you won't get your point across by, like that. So you have to learn, you have to learn to whoop, 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 and usa, calm your temper. A lot of my friends to this day have a bad temper. You talk to them the wrong way, and you're going to get this, They're real quiet and be like, yes, hi. And the next thing you know, they're like, what she said? And they're ready to, thump. And I noticed this with older women and ghetto girls that was raised in my time. They could be as sweet as sugar. You say something to her sister or her the wrong way, and you're going to get hit. And this comes from getting your ass whipped. I believe. This is my theory on the subject. A lot of times when, you got your ass whipped by family, really your mom or your pops. I didn't have a father in my house, but mommy, she gave it to you. She gave you a whoop in the ass every so often. And my mom, personally, she was not scared to whip your ass with a belt or her leather belt and show it to you. Like, look, when they put it on top of it, and they will let you know. Now, my honey one time said, you complain a lot about your childhood, and it's not complaining. For me, it's not complaining because I enjoy talking about, my life. If I'm talking about it, I like to talk about my whole life. I don't like to hide nothing in a closet or in a box for you or me so that I could, pretend. That's not how I cope with situations. I like to tell the truth. There's things I don't reveal, you don't reveal every single little dot in your life, every little thing and little minute thing that ever happens. You don't reveal it all because you have to have something for yourself. Yes, we have to be private sometimes, a little private. But when I'm talking about my life, I don't give a shit to tell you the whole entire story of what I'm talking about or most of it. You know what I'm saying? My childhood, I loved it. Had a great Christmas. Yes, my mother worked really hard. You know what I'm saying? She worked really hard and she did it all herself. And she talked about it every step of the way. So I'm gonna be honest. She was always like, I got mine. I got mine. If I had 15 cents for every time my mother said that, I would have been a bazillionaire right now. Yes. So mother worked so hard, to put the food on the table. She really did. So it was like good times in my house. It was like good times every time you meet a payment, and it was like that because basically you would hear the parade. I mean, my mother really was really about that, like. I work, I do, and I did it myself, and I do it by myself, and it was a lot of that. So you didn't really feel the need to ask too much for stuff. Like, these kids be like, Mom, I want this. And you couldn't do that when we were growing up. And that was what almost everybody I know, because, everything was on a fixed income, and kids, they didn't just get the shit that they get today. There were a lot of two-people households back then, too. There was a lot of mother and fathers, and there was a lot of pride. And I'm going to tell you something about Puerto Ricans and blacks. Those are the people I knew in my hood. They had a lot of pride for themselves back then. You don't really see too much of that. Like with young men and young women, they had a lot of pride for themselves and for their children. Like, you didn't see them put their makeup on, wearing these little hot shorts like in Puerto Rico. I'm going to tell you straight up. These little girls be dressing like all kinds of fucking hoes. I mean, I told you, I don't care. You would never have seen nothing like that when I was growing up. A hot shorts? No, girlfriend. Your father would have came or your mother would have been like, where you going wearing that? You're not going nowhere wearing that. And it would have been like that and shit. No, my mother already threatened me when I was little. If I catch you wearing makeup, I'm going to bust your ass. And I used to sneak it. I used to sneak it outside and put that shit on in the cars. You look at the car window and we put on my eyeliners and shit. Because I used to love putting on makeup at 12. I was bad, yes. I diverted, I know. The subject is more about how our family impacted us. And I need to get back to that quick. This is how my family impacted me. I'm going to try to run through it mad quick for you. How they impacted me is that with the little bit of education that they had, and they almost all went to college for 1 year. But with the opportunity that they did have to have just this little bit of education, they tried to teach us as much as they could. They cursed us out on a regular, yes. But they did try to teach us what they could, and we soaked it all in. We did. We were those type of kids that we wanted to suck it all in, and we did. And we took from that what we wanted. Like that, we got older because we were pretty negative. all of us, you know, when you raise negatively, you kind of negative, and there was a lot of negativity in our families back then because our families were pretty much ignorant. That's the truth. But now, since we living in this era of, you know, the computer, the World Wide Web, online, you getting all your information, so you learn how to eat right, you know, think right, and you know, you do your yoga and your, you know, you eat your yogurt, you know what I'm saying, whatever, and you do the shit right, and then you take responsibility for what you supposed to take responsibility, and that's for how you live in today, because you're the master of your own destiny, and that's what we all learn. Like a lot of us learn in my family. And I will give a shout out to my cousin Christina. I love you. We learn together every day, all day, and yes. And me and her grew up like sisters, and she was always with me, and I wasn't always the best while she's younger than me. So I was a little bit of a pain in the ass, and even worse, you know what I'm saying? But as we grew up and grew out of our negativity, you know, from, you know, our childhood was rough, you know what I'm saying? And some of us had it worse than others, yes. But we learned from each other as we got older, and instead of, you know, judging each other or starting trouble with each other or talking down to each other, we learned how to talk up to each other, and we get along like this. Boom! You know, X's and O's all day. And we still keep it amazingly tight, even though I'm living in Puerto Rico and she's living somewhere very far. You know, we still keep in contact, we still talk on a regular, and we still miss each other and want to see each other, and we get so excited, and we love each other very much. We're like soulmates, you know what I'm saying? And that's how you and your family could be like soulmates if you keep it together and you talk up to each other instead of talking down. Now, I'm going to give you some quick advice. I think it's so important that as you get on and you get older and you take responsibility for your life and how you want to live, forget about mommy and papi and the aunts and uncles and how they raised you. You're raising yourself now. You're your own baby. So you need to take care of yourself and take care of your needs, your mind, your spirit, your body. Yes, that's up to you. And my advice for that is, you know, as you're doing that and you want to have these fantastic, fabulous, awesome relationships with your family members, you know, if y'all want to do this, if y'all willing to do this, y'all really have to stop judging each other. You really have to stop talking down to each other. And it's very critical for having an excellent relationship that you have to listen to each other. You really do. And when I'm saying don't talk down to each other, it is so important that you don't do that, because then you develop this quiet, like, you can't see it, but it's an energy between both of you. It's a friction. And then all of a sudden, it's like this negativity shit that y'all both have, where it's a lot of, like, sarcastic shit, where you like, oh, you know, oh, so that's your house because it's kind of small. It's kind of small, and now all those are your dishes. Oh, they look kind of cheap, and you know, and y'all being very shady with each other. And then next thing you know, you like, fuck you, bitch, and it's like, well, don't talk to me like that. You know what, bitch? Like, fuck you. And then you're hanging up the phone on each other, and you're not talking. And then you know, it's called keeping up with the Joneses, when you're jealous of each other and you're envious of each other, or you're not happy when each other is doing big things, and that's not nice, because you're supposed to build each other up. Is very important, and that goes for you and your sister, your brother, your cousins, your aunts. You know, give each other love. You know, I still have these problems with some of my family members. I won't mention any names, but I still got little problems with them. They want to contradict you or want to talk over you and shit like that. And it's like, yo, what's good? What's wrong with you? And then I get into my little arguments and shit. And I still got my mom, who, you know, she's fantastic, but sometimes she's a little negative. And I'm not perfect, and she's not perfect. But what I do is I like to talk to my mom. You know, like to get in her head and tell her, oh, that's not nice. And then she's like, she's used to me fighting back, but now she sees I don't do that. And I see my mother coming out of her shell, and she's blossoming like a beautiful rose. Yes. Love you, mommy. She never watches my shows either, but whatever. Off the subject, it's about to rain. So I'm going to have to wrap it up, because this will come out in the video and it'll be like, when I'm trying to talk to you, but whatever. But how I want to end this is by giving my Uncle Jay, my Uncle Jesus. You know, we call him Jay. They call him Jay. He used to call himself J-Love from up above, when he's really up above now, because he passed away. It's been 5 years. And I want to give him a big shout out, you know, and those of you that remember him know this, because he died 5 years ago. He had the most impact on me. He was very loving and very wonderful. And he had problems. You know, he had drug problems. And I'm going to tell you, out of all the people I ever knew in my life, he's given me so much love, and he was there for me through thick and thin. And it's because of him I don't like to judge people, not in their situations. I mean, I see people for who they are. If I see them coming to me with a negative agenda, it's go, boo, bye. But I definitely do want to honor him by dedicating this show to him, because he was an amazing part of my life. So like I always say, click like, don't forget, rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm always there for you. You know that. And thanks for watching my show. Bye-bye. See you next time.